All right, welcome to another episode of Catholic Mindset. Today we have Alejandro and Carmen Santamaria. They both together teach NFP, which is natural family planning, which we're going to learn all about today. There's many methods. They particularly focus on the Sympto-Thermal Method. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about you guys. Thank you for jumping on the show. How are you guys doing today?
We're good. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Yes.
This is awesome that you guys are teaching this method together. It's one thing practicing it together, which from the little I know about NFP, it calls for both the woman, of course, because we're tracking the woman's cycle, and the man has also a very strong supportive role to play. But you guys are going beyond that and teaching it together, which I think is pretty cool.
Well, the method that we teach, actually, we teach through an organization called the Couple to Couple League. So the idea is for couples, so both of us together, to be able to teach and witness to other couples. So that's part of the motivation of that.
Awesome. So let's define NFP. What is NFP?
NFP is just really like it says, natural family planning, planning your family using, again, the natural symptoms, the natural courses of a woman's body and a woman's cycle that God has given us through, again, the miracle of our body, specifically the female body.
Right. So basically men are always fertile, and then us women, God created us so that we can actually, through ways that we can identify whether we are fertile, and we're only fertile at a specific time in our cycle. So it's basically identifying that time, and then as a couple deciding whether you want to have children or whether you have a reason to postpone having children, and then you basically use that information from our body or the signs that God has given us.
And again, this information, this science, this technology has been around since about 1940, or people have known about it since about the 1940s. So again, it's not even new technology that's within the last 10, 20, 30 years. No, it's things that doctors have known about for about 70, almost 80 years now.
How did you guys come to use NFP? Is this something you guys always knew, discovered? Why NFP for you guys?
So before we got married, I knew that the church didn't believe in artificial contraception. I knew that was church teaching, but I didn't know why. So I decided to read Humanae Vitae, which is the encyclical that Saint Pope Paul VI wrote regarding this. And it's a very convicting encyclical. If anybody ever wants to read it, it's actually rather short. And so I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this. And we took a class before we got married. And we saw that, I started to chart. So basically you take those signs, the woman, you put it on a chart, or for example, now we use an app. So I put my information into an app, and you can, just track that way. But we started doing it. We started seeing that, my body actually is doing exactly what they said it was going to do. Like, wow, and we decided, okay, we're going to do that. And so we started doing it. And
so one of the other, we use it, and we like to use it for many reasons. And we decided to use it for several reasons. I'll tell you some of them. One of them is, especially today, it wasn't maybe so popular, 20 years ago, but today it's even more popular. And we've been married for 20 years. We've actually been using the method we've been using it for about 21 years. We've been married about 20 and a half years. But one of the big things today is the green movement, right? I'm an architect. People like greenhouses. They want things that are more environmentally friendly, a better roof, a better car, the electricity, not the gas, things like that. But the same thing applies to our bodies, right? We're willing to go to Whole Foods and buy the apple that is organic and pesticide free and pay a little bit more for that. But then at the same time, we put other things into our bodies, namely hormones and contraceptives and things of that sort that are damaging. Obviously these companies that sell these products, they don't mention that because, again, they want to sell the products. But we decided that that's not what we wanted. We wanted Carmen to be as healthy as possible. And we wanted her body. I didn't want her body to be ingesting or taking any, birth control pills or any of the other things that are out there. No shots, no medicines, no, tubes tied, this and that. So that's one of the reasons we use it. Another one of the reasons we use it is because, like Carmen was saying earlier, they're just natural signs that our body has. God made us in this fantastic way to be able to recognize these signs. And again, it's relatively easy to learn. Yes, you have to take a class and you have to read up and you have to practice a little bit, but just like anything, the more you do it, the more you'll learn, and it becomes really second nature after you do it for a bit. And then arguably one of the other big reasons is that this is what we want to model for our friends, for our children. We have 4 kids, and we have 2 girls and 2 boys. We have a 16-year-old or a daughter who's about to turn 16 now, a little bit later this month. And what better example than to show her that, yes, now that she's undergoing puberty and she gets her period every, so often, every month or so, a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on her cycle, what better example to give her than to tell her, hey, your parents do NFP. I mean, she knows that we do NFP. She doesn't know the method because, again, she's too young to learn it and this and that. But it's a great example for her and for other kids too, to know that there are alternatives out there to what society tells us every day is correct and good. And it's not. It's harmful for you.
And so there are many methods out there, right? Why this one? Why did you guys choose this one?
So one of the biggest reasons we chose this one is because this one is more cohesive, I would guess, and more. Let me use the word thorough. Not that the other methods aren't good, but we prefer this method for 2 big reasons, I would say. One is the cohesiveness, and 2 is, yes, it's all her body, and I never have to touch her body to know about these things. She's the one who analyzes her things, her body, and this and that. But it also involves me. We didn't want something that was just strictly on her. One of the negatives to the pill, or many methods like that, is that it's strictly on the woman. What happens if she forgets to take the pill? What happens if she takes it later in the day? What happens if she's sick? What happens if this happens? What happens if that? There's a lot of different alternatives, or a lot of different potential outcomes. And we wanted something that would involve us both, because at the end of the day, making love and procreating and having kids involves 2 people, right? It never can involve just one person. So we wanted something that was the 2 of us together.
Right. And then that's the main reason, right? Because your fertility as a couple, right? It's not just me, even though, the cycles are mine. But the other reason was really that a lot of the other methods look at one of the symptoms and focus on that. So for example, a very popular method is the Creighton model. And that is a method that just looks at cervical mucus. And that's great. But we look at cervical mucus, and also you cross-check it with the temperature, right? So it's the basal temperature, which is the temperature when you're waking up. So it kind of gives you like another, a data point that you can look at to make sure that you're identifying the different signs correctly. So we just liked it. I mean, honestly, that's what we learned before we got married. That was the class that was offered. That's what we took. And even after having learned about other methods, we still practice ours. We like ours. So.
Yeah. I mean, and again, not to say it again, but I'm an architect. I like math. I like numbers. I like science. I like things that work. And who doesn't like things that work, right? I don't play the lottery because the odds of winning the lottery are 1 in, 80 million, something like that. But the odds of this, working correctly, if you know it correctly, it's better than the pill. It's better.
Just as good if you use it correctly.
Okay, it's just as good. We can say that. It's just as good as the pill.
Without any of the harmful side effects.
Right, without any of the harmful side effects.
Right. That's the key, right? That you're not, like, actually, I mean, the birth control pill is like a class 1 carcinogen, many blood women, clots. I mean, there's so many risks that why do that when you have something that is just as effective and none of those harmful side effects? So
many women have gotten, like you said, not only blood clots, but many women have been diagnosed with cancer, partly because they take, or they've been taking the pill for 20, 30, 40 years. And there have been many cases locally. Jennifer Valapi, if I remember correctly,
she was a reporter
for one of the local stations. She was a highly publicized local case. And again, these things don't generally make the news, but again, within the Miami community, of somebody who again was diagnosed with something like this, unfortunately, because she took birth control pills for many, many years.
So the next question I want to ask is, can you walk me, or no, not me, us, through the process? What can we expect if we choose to do this? What are we looking at?
Okay, so the woman, basically, you pick a time in the morning when you would normally get up, and before you get up, you take your temperature. So you use a special thermometer, which you can find anywhere at CVS or Walgreens. It's called a basal body thermometer, which is the basal means like the temperature of your body at rest. So basically, before I get up and have coffee or do anything, I just stick the thermometer in my mouth and it records it and it keeps it there. And
it keeps the temperature there.
It keeps the temperature there. Alejandro can come later and look at it. And the other thing is just an awareness when you go to the bathroom. There's no extra steps, really. It's just looking to see if I have cervical mucus, if I don't, what kind of cervical mucus it is. And then basically that information then all gets put by Alejandro
into an app. And, you know, just like anything, it's a computer program. The more information you give it, the more it's going to know, and the more it's going to be able to predict, again, when you're going to have your next period, when you're going to be fertile, when you're not going to be fertile, etc. As far as time is concerned, I'd say it's maybe 2-3 minutes a day, you know, because again, when Carmen checks her mucus, it's just normally when she goes to the bathroom, you know, when she wipes herself, when she cleans herself, she's going to do that anyway. So it's just a question of, oh, hey, is the mucus a little bit heavier? Is it a little bit thicker? Is it a little bit more pasty? Is it longer? Is it this? Is it that? And again, you learn some of those things in the classes. Then again, if we can do it, I think most people can do it.
Okay. So if we do jump on the Sympto-Thermal method, then there's going to be classes, right? So how does one, for example, sign up for this? So you guys teach it, right? So we go, for example, to you. I say, hey, Alejandro and Carmen, I want to do the Sympto-Thermal method. What are my next steps? Let's say, of course, let's say I'm married and I come to you, you know, and we want to do this because we want to do what the church teaches the right way, and we want to do natural family planning, and we want to jump on the, you know, I did some simple research and you guys came up. I don't know. I was directed to you guys. I want to do the Sympto-Thermal method. What is my next step?
So there are actually a lot of different options through the Couple to Couple League. You can take, like we teach live classes, like we teach at different parishes throughout the Archdiocese. And it's basically 3 classes. So they're roughly about a month apart. And they're like a couple of hours each time. So that allows the couple to start charting, right? So that you can come back and ask us questions. And
part of the reason also that they're about a month apart is also so that you start practicing, because again, just like everything, and like I said earlier, the more you practice, the better off you are. So
right. So then if there's no live class that works for you, a lot of couples who take the classes are, you know, couples who are engaged and getting to preparing to be married. There's also, we have online classes. So there's a self-paced, like basically recordings, and the same material is being taught, and you can do it, you know, from the comfort of your home. Sometimes there's also couples where maybe the person there, you know, one person is here, living here, and somebody's living somewhere else. So it makes it easier for them.
Especially before they get married.
Right. Or obviously with the pandemic, you know, people use that a lot. There's also live online where you can schedule and you know, are live with an instructor. You're just, you know, remote. We have classes also in English and Spanish. All of those options are available. So, you know, there's a lot of options. So, you know, the information's out there. It's a matter of, you know, signing yourself up and gaining it. And what I always tell people is also, you know, marriage is for life. So whether you've been using a different method, you know, or contracepting or doing something, at least inform yourselves and get this, you know, something that you can learn about your bodies and make you healthier. And, you know, don't let people just tell you, oh, that doesn't work. That's the rhythm method, you know, which it's not. You know, there's a lot of misconceptions. And, you know, don't go and get the information yourself, take the class, and, you know, then you can make an informed decision.
Right. I mean, I think a lot of it is also about, educating yourself. And also, I think from my point of view, from the male point of view, educating myself about her body. And again, what husband, what male doesn't want to get to know his partner, his wife's body, you know, even better, not just physically, but also from a physiological point of view. That was very empowering when I learned some of these things. And sure, you learned about a woman's cycle in science class and in biology and this and that, you know, in high school. But again, this is a little bit more in depth. And I would also say that this is, you know, it's another tool to have in your tool belt. Again, when we get married, especially when we get married, you know, there aren't really classes about, hey, these are the good things to do in marriage. These are the bad things, this and that. This is another tool to add to your tool belt. And the more informed you are, the more tools you have in your tool belt, in your, you know, in your arsenal, especially as a couple, the better off you'll be, again, as a couple.
Okay. So for those couples that are considering it, how accurate would you say this method is?
Oh, Alejandro, this method is over 99.9% effective if you learn it correctly. As a good example, and we wouldn't be teaching it, we wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't effective. Again, there's a lot of skepticism out there today about science, about, you know, the vaccine and about this and about that. But a great example is our own personal case. Carmen, we got married and Carmen was working in the business world. She was actually working for Canon at the time. And about a month and a half later, she comes up to me and she says Alejandro, because of course she says Alejandro when she wants something. My family and her really only wants to call me Alejandro. Everybody else calls me Alex. So it's like, Alejandro, I want to go to law school. Can you support me? Are you willing to support me for the next 3.5, 4 years? And I said, of course, yes. You know, we were newly married and we didn't have any kids at the time. And again, we stayed in the same trajectory of using a natural family planning to, again, plan our family, because obviously we didn't think it was the best idea to have children while she was in law school. Obviously, law school is demanding and it takes time and it takes energy and this and that. But sure enough, right a little bit before she finished law school, we used the same things we learned in the method to achieve a pregnancy. So again, we made love, we had sex at the right moments that we knew even better, obviously, again, after taking the classes and learning about the method. And sure enough, we got pregnant with our daughter, Monica. So we've never had any unintended pregnancies using the method. And again, the method is more than 99.9% effective. It's just as effective as the pill, or more so, again, if you learn it and use it correctly.
Awesome. Awesome. So you guys would say you guys are very happy with the outcome of this.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, you guys are teaching it, of course.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I would never teach something that A, I didn't believe in, or B, didn't think was accurate.
Right. And also it's not just the fertility. I mean, even though that's really the purpose of it, but there have been points where just looking at my chart, you know, my doctor was able to see that my temperatures were really low, and, you know, ordered some blood tests, and they were able to identify some other health issues that were not related to my fertility. So it's just an overall picture of a woman's health. So it's very empowering for me as a woman. I mean, like he said, you know, oh yeah, you learn, maybe you take like a human growth and development class when you're in school, but I never learned about all this. Like nobody taught me what cervical mucus was, what it was for. You know, I didn't know any of this until I was, you know, in my 20s trying to get, you know, preparing to get married, and I took this class. So, you know, as far as empowering me as a woman, that was huge for me to learn. God created me this way, and it's a beautiful thing. And I can use that information with my husband, and we can plan our family.
Right. Yeah. And you're not sick. And again, from the male point of view, I knew even less about a woman's body than she does, because obviously it's her body, and, you know, it's her period and her cycle and her this and her mucus and her blood.
Right.
But yeah, it's been very educational in many regards for us both as a couple. And it also has brought us together closer, because at the end of the day, you share, you know, hey, is your mucus like this? And that's, I think, one of the other beauties of the method, that you talk about it and you share it. Hey, your mucus was like this. I saw it. I saw the temperature. Because again, the thermometer keeps a temperature, and then I come later, whether I do it early in the morning or I do it late at night, the thermometer keeps a temperature, and then I go, boom, I see what it is, 97.8. I input it into the app, or into the paper, or into both, and we see. But again, we're talking about it. It's not just like, oh yeah, I know what your symptoms are. It's about, hey, you're about to, you know, ovulate. You are about to get your period. You're on day 18 of your cycle. You're on day 23 of your cycle. Your previous cycle was 29 days. This one is going to be probably again in the 29-day range, a little bit more, a little bit less. So it's a constant communication, which is A, fun, and B, it's unitive as well.
I mean, Alejandro, sounds to me like you're cracking the code of when you need to bring more flowers and chocolates. What time of the just for that alone.
No, absolutely. That's an excellent point. Look, sex is a great thing, right? I have never seen anybody say sex is a bad thing. Sex is a horrible thing. Sex is something to be avoided. No. And I think, unfortunately, that's one of the stigmas of the church. Back in the day, there were previous methods that focused on things like a woman's cycle is always 28 days. First of all, that's completely wrong. And we know it's wrong because every woman is different. There are factors that influence us from, you know, just temperature to travel to stress to this to that. And yeah, which man wouldn't want to make love to his wife more, or know exactly when it is that she's ovulating, when it is that she's more, you know, hormonally attractive or not.
Right. Like, actually, that's a good point, what he was saying, that this method is very accurate because it looks at me as an individual, right? He's looking at my fertility signs. It's not like some, you know, algorithm, or just like, okay, it's the 28-day cycle, I ovulate day 14. That's
it's
some
not
textbook.
It's not generic. And this works for anybody. This works for
irregular cycles. We've had some of our best friends who have, like, one of my best friends has super irregular cycles. They use this method to plan their family. You know, it works for everybody because you're looking at their specific signs. So
yeah, and in particular, the friend that she's talking about, she has her cycle about it once every 3 months. So again, medically, that's very regular. Typically, a woman has her cycle every 28 days, a month, give or take. But hey, one cycle every 3 months, 4 cycles a year, that's pretty regular. And it works for her. It works for them, actually, her and her husband.
And then knowing that brings some peace of mind, right? If you have your cycle if your period, if your time is so extensive, it could be concerning if you didn't know.
Correct.
Right. No, exactly.
So concerning, like, why am I? Yeah.
Ourselves. Right.
Okay. Cool. This is great. So for couples that are planning to get married, when is a good time to start incorporating this into their routine?
I would say take the class as soon as you can, as soon as you get engaged, because the more cycles that you can chart, the earlier that you can learn this, the more comfortable you're going to be with the method. And, starting to see those cycles and starting to see that, the woman's body is doing what it should, or, what it's supposed to. Or if it's not, you can also get medical intervention, because it's just a health issue overall. So at least for our classes, at least 3 months is kind of the minimum, because of the way we space out our classes, because we do want people to start charting.
3 months before you get married.
Yeah, 3 months before you get married. But I would say as soon as you can, the more information you have, the better.
That makes sense. And the more you practice, the more secure you are by the time you actually start implementing it.
Exactly.
Of course.
Exactly.
Of course. And let's face it, again, just going back to the mucus for a second, the more you know about your mucus and the more comfortable you are with your mucus, the better off you'll be. But again, it's not something that women normally look at all that often. Oh, yes, you wipe and you see the mucus and this and that. But again, why is it there? Is it a little bit bigger? Is it smaller? Is it more pasty? Is it more stretchy? Things like that are, again, the more you know, the better off you'll be.
Awesome. Pre-podcast, you guys mentioned that you guys teach 2 other things, one before or after pregnancy. What are you guys up to? What is that?
So we also teach the 2 other times in a woman's life that their fertility changes a little bit. So postpartum, so after you have a baby, that sort of return to fertility can be a little bit challenging for women. So we have a class specifically for that. And then we also have like a premenopause class. So, when the fertility is waning, the things also start to change and cycles start to change. So we have a class for that. So those are kind of in addition to whenever somebody is at that stage in life, we recommend that they take those classes.
Awesome. Is it true? I'm just going to throw a myth at you that when a woman has a baby and they're breastfeeding, that postpones.
Well, that's actually not a myth. So, but it kind of depends on what if they're only breastfeeding, they also have to be looking at the signs of their fertility. I mean, like for me, actually, personally, breastfeeding, that did postpone the return of my fertility until I weaned my children. So, well, actually, no, with my daughter, I did get it back after maybe like 9-10 months, but my son, until he was weaned, so after a year, I didn't get, for a whole other year after giving birth, I didn't have my period. But that's, it's very specific to the woman, and you have to look at certain signs that are a little bit different at that time. But it kind of depends, because some people are breastfeeding, but they're also giving formula, it's, if you're giving a lot more formula than breast milk, then the return of fertility could be sooner. But it is actually a very natural way of spacing out children. And that's, for centuries, that's what women did, right? Like they would breastfeed and then wait until the next child. So it is actually a very natural thing. Like your body kind of knows, okay, I'm taking care of this other human right now. Maybe I can't create another one right now. So it makes sense.
Again, it's another great example of the biology that God created for us and for women to just, it's so much of it just makes sense. I mean, like if we were to design a human, like we would never do this, It's so perfect. It's so perfect. It's so well thought out from an engineering, from an architectural point of view. Yeah, it's like perfect.
Awesome. Beautiful. Well, I know that we're running out of time. And one more last question for you guys. How has this impacted your faith? How do you guys see that?
Well, I think it definitely has brought us closer, like we mentioned before. But it's also been very good because we've been able to share with some friends, and we've been able to help people. And let's face it, the world needs a lot more help. The more we can help anybody, even if it's just, hey, this is out there, even if they never use it, well, at least we presented the information. But in many cases, we present information and then people actually use it. And then they're like, hey, thank you. This is great. I'm going to now, spread the word and tell my sister. I'm going to tell my boyfriend. I'm going to tell my friend, I'm going to tell my coworker, knowing that hopefully we're, one small little a bead in the bigger, or one small little atom in the bigger cosmos of NFP and of teaching people and of helping people, that in and of itself is extremely rewarding.
And for me, I would say that knowing the Catholic Church has always stood firm. So before 1930, all Christian churches, basically believed and had the same idea about contraception, but the Catholic Church is like the only one standing really, and just knowing that, knowing that she always fights for the truth. And so I think in our lived experience of our 20 years of marriage, we've seen what a blessing this is, and people talk about obviously marriage is difficult and how many couples end in divorce. If you look at statistics, the couples who practice natural family planning, it's such a small percentage of those marriages that end in divorce. It's like another thing that helps to strengthen that bond, and you want that, right? You're going to fight for that marriage and for that relationship. So for us, natural family planning has been a blessing. And I didn't think, 20 years ago when we took the class that we would be the ones advocating for it necessarily, because we were, like I said, I didn't know why the church taught what she taught, but little by little, we've become that and just become really passionate about it.
I came up with this little saying in the course of teaching the classes. And the saying is, if you can talk about mucus, you can talk about anything. Oftentimes, as adults, we gear towards the YouTube videos of, funny cats and this and that. And hey, we all want a good laugh. We all need a little bit more sense of humor in our lives, but we also need some moments of adult time. And as a couple, oftentimes I think that if you can talk about the important things of life, like your fertility, like a woman's mucus, if you can talk about things like that, man, your relationship will be better and you can talk about anything.
Awesome. Where can people find you?
Well, they can find the Couple to Couple League, ccli.org.
Okay.
And whenever we teach a class, it's posted on there. So they can
Okay,
find
great.
us.
And again, it's Couple to Couple League International, because again.
Yes, or if they're looking in Spanish, Liga de Pareja Pareja, it's the same. You can, I think, probably link through both of them.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Alejandro and Carmen. Thank you again for jumping on the show and telling us all about what you guys do with NFP. And thank you for being out there in the mission, sharing ways to be better Catholics, we're going to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Alejandro.